goes, he looked up at the photo, I think is what made him think of it. And he looked at, he goes, your grandma was beautiful. And I said, I know. And he goes, no, she was really beautiful. And I said, yeah, I've seen old pictures. He goes, I've got more. And that's when he showed me the pictures that he kept in his wallet of Grandma. And he was like, she was just beautiful.
Aww.
So, yep.
That's sweet.
Aww. Your great grandma was beautiful. Not your grandma. Grandpa never told her.
I don't have anything.
Nothing?
You went to Seattle. You don't have anything from that? You visited them in Seattle. Yep, I'm thinking there, but if Grandpa saw Peter, he'd probably say he had.
Guess we found out who's got the Alzheimer's of all of us.
Michelle said the same thing.
Early onset.
That's not what he inherited.
Peter loved your blonde hair.
Peter inherited.
Grandpa loved your blonde hair.
I wish I remembered all his one-liners. We had some good ones.
Uncle Peter, do you remember all Grandpa's one-liners?
I was trying to think of something that he could tell in church, and I couldn't think of any.
That he could tell in church?
Yeah, he kind of mentioned that. I couldn't. Well, some of you have heard this, but I came up from work and I told him, or I asked him. A little bit of the original one, and a little bit of Star Trek Next Generation, and that's it. I mean, I've seen the episodes of the others, but when I saw Obama, I thought, no, Star Trek Voyager. Look for the African American Vulcan.
Or Google it.
Dad, do you have any funny stories to tell about Grandpa?
You gotta get through it.
Joe.
What about Jonathan?
Oh, Johnny.
I think the only one I can really remember was when me and Kim went up to Washington, Seattle, and saw him. And I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was when Grandma ended up putting hand soap in the dishwasher, and it started over bubbling. I think later on that night we were talking, and we asked him something about, what he thought about how Grandma was doing that, and what did he say? He said something like, "Well, I just wake up in the middle of the night and play on my video poker game, and sit in the chair for hours."
Oh, he did tell us that.
Just because he didn't want to be in the room. But no, he loved Grandma. But
He said that was when he told us that he started messing with her.
oh yeah.
He would just move stuff so that she was.
She was the bathroom every day. That's right.
When they were in. I know, but he told us when we were in Seattle that time that he would just start messing with it. So then I started putting the dishes in the refrigerator. That really confused him.
He was covering for her.
Oh, I bet he was, but he
Yeah.
told us that he would just move stuff to try and make her even more,
In retrospect, there are two times when I realized now, your grandmother first showed signs of Alzheimer's? The first time was October 1st, 1988. And the reason I remember that day, I got promoted as district manager of Los Angeles when I worked at Grand Tree. They sent me to Bakersfield from Portland, told me it was going to be a temporary job because they were going to close Bakersfield. But they never made money there. They'd never had a general manager. They had a sales manager who had some great ideas, but nobody to listen to. And a warehouse manager who could figure out how to do things. Those of you who know Southern California know where Lancaster Palmdale is. Nobody would deliver rental furniture there. There are 1,000 and 2,000 unit apartment complexes there that want to offer furnished apartments, but they don't want to buy the furniture. And they don't care what you charge them because most of their customers or renters are working for North American Rockwell or companies that are in aerospace that do business with government. So whatever and they send these engineers in there for a short period of time, so whatever they pay for rent, they don't care because the company's paying for it. The company doesn't care because they add it to the cost of the contract and the government pays for it. Well, nobody would deliver them, but there was all kinds of just getting out there because it was 115 miles away and drivers can only be on the road so long. Anyway, we put all this crap together, mainly the sales manager and the warehouse manager found a way to get it out there. And we made tons of money. We were making more money in Bakersfield than any other area in the country. And instead of being there for 8 months, I decided to not close it but open it, and I got promoted to LA. Well, they didn't tell me when they sent me down there right after. They told me I was going down there a week before Labor Day, and I went home to Portland, and that's when Susan dumped me because she didn't want to move to California. I spent a week there, and on the way back to the airport, she just goes, "Here you are." But they didn't tell me. They said I could do anything I wanted to, basically, but I had 1 year to turn around, or they were going to close it and that bankrupt the company, and I wouldn't have a job. And they didn't tell me that the Teamsters were trying to organize, and we were going to have an election September 30th. And if the Teamsters won, oh yeah, we're going to close it. We're not going to operate. Oh. Well, we won the Teamsters award. The election, Teamsters election, and we all went out and celebrated. And I was driving back to San Bernardino, and after we went out and celebrated, and we were bowling, then we went out for breakfast. And by the time I started home, it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. We were celebrating down in Santa Ana or somewhere down in Orange County. Well, if you remember, if you're coming up Interstate 15, the way it used to be, there was this big wide curve that would take you up to Lake Arrowhead, and you take that down to a dead end on Highland Avenue. Well, that big wide curve, there was ice plant, that ground cover ice plant. Well, I fell asleep in the middle of that big white curve, and I went into the ice plant. And I didn't hit anything, but I couldn't get out of it because
Right, slippery, yeah.
So I walked home from there, and I was driving my dad's car, an old Ford, because my car, I had a 280Z that was in the shop. So I go home, and he had the flu. He's upstairs. He was in a little townhouse, and your grandmother's up. And I go up to her and I said, "I need to know the license plate of the car." Well, first I called a friend of mine. Long story short, I needed to get the license plate for that car because it had been towed. And I didn't want to wake him up. And she couldn't find it, and she just went to pieces. She was going, I mean, had no idea what she was doing. Then and there's a good memory of your grandfather. Then he came downstairs, and I told him what had happened. And he goes, "You didn't do anything that damn stupid when you were 16 years old." And my sales manager standing there listening because he's giving me a ride around. And the other time I knew there was something wrong. But I didn't realize, I didn't put it together. That was her first sign of Alzheimer's. She just completely lost it. When we were all there that Christmas, and everybody was together, played football and stuff, I would sleep in that dining room area on the floor, right off the kitchen. And she would go in there and she would spend all night rearranging dishes. And that's a sign of Alzheimer's when you do stuff like that. And I'd go in the morning and I'd be trying to find something, and they're like, "Well, the cups were there yesterday." "Oh, there's a cup. Where's it? Oh, and there's the there's the shirt." I mean, she had basically she kept the dishes with dishes, but it was just a mess.
I do remember
But then,
that.
I don't know about you, but whenever Dad would call and say, "Well, there's something wrong with her," I'd say, "Well, wasn't anything wrong with her when I was there," because she would hide it. So.
He called me aside when they lived on Pasita. That was before they moved back to the condo. And
Yeah, well, that's where that happened with, oh, no, it was
this
after,
was on
yeah.
Pasita, and I was sitting on their couch there in the family room, not in the living room, and I don't know, there couldn't have been too many people in the room, might have just been me, and he was standing in that entrance, going in there, and he said, now I told you some time ago I needed to tell you something about your mom. And I thought, I'd been thinking he was going to tell me that she had some kind of cancer or something. But he told me there's something, your mom's not well. And I guess he saw the look on my face. He said, no. He said, she's not physically sick. She's just, he says, you know I have physical problems. And I may not be around as long as your mother is. He said, but in 10, 15 years, if I'm not around, you and your brother are going to have to take care of her because she's not going to be able to take care of herself.
Oh.
So he knew way early that something was wrong with her. They didn't call it Alzheimer's back then, but he knew there was something happening. And he was already thinking, we've got to look out for her. You know, as long as she was independent and could take care of herself, you know, he let her. You know, he didn't try to do anything, but once she started not being able to take care of herself, then he did everything he could for as long as he could. He would call me up and say, I can't take care of her anymore, you're going to have to do something. He says, I'm just getting to where I can't take care of her anymore. But